Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing a review of the WinWing Orion 2 HOTAS Strike Ace E EX version. This is an absolutely incredible HOTAS and maybe, dare I say, one of the best I have ever had the pleasure of using. Stick around because we're going to talk about the good, bad, the ugly, the could be better, the is best, and everything in between. So stick around. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkill's tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below.
Overkill simulations, watch us as we fly.
All right, you guys, so as we get into this, I want you all to know there will be chapters down below breaking everything down. First, we're simply going to talk about the features on these two devices. We're going to go through all of the buttons, switches, knobs, dials, comfort, discomfort, assembly process. I'm not going to show the assembly process, but we're going to talk about it as it was actually quite simple. Features that are already with it, features that can expand with it. Then I'm going to talk about, in the next chapter, what my thoughts are as far as using it, how it felt, anything that I noticed that I did and did not like, maybe contention points that maybe could be improved. And then finally, we're going to talk about how it could definitely be better with the pros and the cons of this, and why I think this could absolutely be, for example, the one I will tell you right out of the gate, this would definitely in my book be the Warthog killer. Stick around. All right, you guys, so let's go ahead and begin with the Throttle. The Throttle is an incredibly well-designed, very ergonomic piece of hardware and probably one of the best configurations I have ever seen. Got a little dust on there. The joys of living in Tucson, Arizona. One of the things that I am a big proponent of is toggle switches. Now, don't get me wrong. I completely understand the need for, gosh, still more. I just dusted this thing today. Come on, man. I'm trying to make you look pretty. Is the need for momentary switches. So for example, if you do an air start, you're starting your aircraft, especially something like this, where it's made, especially with DCS in mind, or a combat simulation, and you do an air start, you want to make sure that all of your switches and positions are in the same position that they would be in the cockpit. So that's where a toggle switch is a downfall. However, in my opinion, nothing feels quite as good as a toggle switch. They're just the best, in my opinion. All of the rotaries are independent buttons, left and right, as well as push down. You have two sliders, one slider, one identified as dial. Finger lift capability on the throttles if you have the appropriate detent put into place, which currently I do not. As well as a ton of buttons, hats. You have hat switch, hat switch, hat switch, hat switch, controller axis. This is a axis. There's an axis over here on the right throttle as well. So you have axis and buttons configuration options everywhere. You have multiple aircraft that were in mind. For example, here you have your launch bar, hook, wing fold over here in the front. I'll show you guys when it comes back around again here. Your master arms, your autopilots, this is more like the F-16 style. Again, over here is your wing fold. Push it to lock it, landing gear, parking brake. All kinds of different configurations. Now the light switch here is momentary for the master switch on your lights, which again, I completely understand. Speed brake switch, lock in the rear position, momentary in the forward. Your boat switch that we had on the side will come around again here in a minute. Just tons of configuration options, guys. You guys saw the lighting in the beginning of the video. Everything lights up very, very nice, very, very elegantly. The build on this is absolutely phenomenal. Everything is absolutely solid. These pieces here are where you mount the throttle handles onto the throttle base once it arrives. They do come separated. These are in their own packaging, left and right packaging, and then you assemble the finger lifts onto the throttle arms and put it all down as one unit. Takes about 5 to 10 minutes to assemble. All the required hardware is there. Tension for each left and right axis can be found on each side of it that you can easily adjust. The action on the throttles themselves, which I'll be showing you guys in just a moment here when we get into the breakdown of how the controllers feel, is very, very easy to manipulate. Setting these up was an absolute blast. One of my favorite things about the way WinWing does their controllers versus others is every position in the switch is a different identified button inside the sim. Meaning that you don't have, for example, a 2 toggle switch with just a single button. So button 19 on, button 19 off. That's not how it works with this. This would be button 19, 20 in the middle, 21 in the forward position. This could be button, 13 and 14. So every position has a button trigger in the position that's in, which makes mapping your controls very, very easy. You guys can also see you have the air to ground and air to air modes there, found on like the F-18 Hornet up on the combat panel. So it is a really, really well thought out. The only thing that I would have liked to have seen different is like a push button here, just because I really liked that on the Warthog, and on the or not on the Warthog, on the CM3 from Burple. But this is phenomenal. Oh, and you have another axis right up at the front of it, you guys. There's button and axis mappings all over the place. Okay, so that is the throttle. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stick and the base, and then we'll talk about how they feel, and then I'll get into the pros and cons of these units. Okay, on the stick, another fantastic configuration. 2-stage trigger, smaller pedal switch, your pinky button, four position with a push hat, 4 position hat, and a trim hat up at the top. You guys will see when it comes back around here just once again. Incredibly well designed, very ergonomic, very well positioned. This is also a 5-position hat right here on the chip, and again, we'll go over this here in just a minute. Kind of wanted to give you guys the cool showcase here, and so you guys can see all the units. The hand ergonomics of it is absolutely perfect, and again, you guys will see that in just a moment. The way it feels around the hand, your hand just sort of cups around it very nicely. And I have very large hands. If you guys have big hands, this is an absolutely amazing flight stick. I have not found really anything that I dislike about this. It seats very well. You even have a locking pin, or a set screw, to lock it in place. I haven't found any other issues with this. When it comes to the flight stick, I only have one complaint, and you guys will hear about that here in just a minute. But other than that, this is an absolutely amazing piece of hardware. So now that you guys have seen the beautiful display, let's get into the nit and gritty of it and start talking about how they feel and the actuation of them. All right, so getting into the actuation, how they feel. The flight stick itself is incredibly smooth. Incredibly smooth. There is literally no detent whatsoever. Very, very light. Now, you do have adjustment options. You can adjust the tension. I liked it loose. I wanted to keep it like this, and I actually found specifically flying helicopters with this was amazing. I was tooling around the Apache with it just the other day, and then also in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The last couple of Flight Simulator videos that I've done, guys, have been with this. I've been using this for a little over a month now. And I've really, really been enjoying it. It's a fantastic product. Now, to the only thing that I don't like about this and, for example, the base or the throttle, the suction cups. These are how you keep them to the desk, and I do not like them. That is the one thing that WinWing will obviously be seeing this video. I hope you guys find a different way. I don't like these at all. Things like this mat, they don't even stick to. I have moved the throttle or my entire mat, depending on what happens while using it. Textured surfaces, they don't stick to. And then over time, suction panels get dirty and they wear out and they stop working well. So I really don't like it. And we're going to talk about another problem that I found with using these on the throttle in just a moment. But so far, that has really been my only complaint to these units. Both units have the option to change cams and springs. However, that set is something that is ordered. You can pick that up on their website. It is a extended purchase, so you can purchase it afterwards. I don't think I have that up on their page right now, so we'll take a look at that later on before the end of the video, or at the very least, I will leave a link to those in the video. But I will say that I wish that they were included with it. At $560, extra cams and springs, I feel should be included with the unit. That is one thing I will say. But with that being said, even this, the action is so smooth. It is so nice that it's really... There are certain flight sticks and certain units that I have used where different cams and different springs and things like that were a necessity. They had to be there because some of them were just not fun to use. Because the action on this is so smooth, it's so glass, I can also see why they weren't included, because they're really, from my honest opinion, they're not necessary. I would like to have seen them in the package. It would have been fun to try different detents and cams out. but that's not required. This is an all metal construction. All of the components are a full metal construction. So this is why, sort of why I'm leaning to, guys, that this unit at very similar pricing, it's a little bit more expensive, but not much, than the Thrustmaster Warthog. I think the Warthog comes in right around $500, maybe a little bit more now, actually. And this being the price that it's at, in my opinion, is a far better deal. Far better deal. You don't have a plastic gimbal any longer. The gimbal, again, is an all-metal dual-axis construction, where Thrustmaster Warthog, for example, has that plastic ball and knuckle gimbal configuration, and I've had a lot of problems with it in the past. I still love my Warthog. It's connected to my motion pit as we speak, but I'm not going to dispute the fact that it's been a pain in the butt before. Okay, I remember having to take it apart, grease it, sand it, things like that to get the stiction out of it, and with this, you have none of that. So that is something to be considerate of too. The overall action, like I said here, just holding it, let me turn it, the way that your hand just sort of wraps around perfectly. I mean, it's a perfect union, if you will. The flight stick really feels like it's attached to you. Now, this is very similar, obviously, of this type of stick, so it's not necessarily that it was their design, but reproducing and the way they designed it and the way they built it and the way they manufactured it, it feels phenomenal, right? I know that they didn't reinvent the wheel with this one. I know that it's the same thing as in the real aircraft, but it's absolutely phenomenal. All the buttons are easily reachable. As I stated, you have 4-position hat with push, 4-position hat with a button here. So this would be great for like your TDC with your pushing being your lock. And then, of course, you have your either your countermeasure, dispense switch, whatever you want to do with this. But again, 4-position with a push. And the push requires effort. I will give them that. You actually have to really give it a push to bring it down. And then you have the paddle switch. And all of the buttons have a very, very nice feel. Hopefully, I don't know if you guys can hear the click or not, but it sounds absolutely wonderful. It's a really, really great piece of hardware. So now let's go ahead and move back over to the throttle for a second so I can talk about a few things on it. Okay, so getting into the throttle, let's get the first ugly one out of the way. Notice that I had this suction cup off, and that's because it mounts here, and no matter which one you put it in, it's really hard to get to it with this in the way. Now that I could probably remove, to be honest, but I really didn't want to. And plus, I don't, like I said, I don't like the suction cups, so wasn't really too concerned about it. So moving to the left hand here, again, feels absolutely phenomenal. And the action, just smooth as glass all the way through. Okay, and you can put your tension on it. You can see that it's not moving if I just want to bump it. But if I give it the pressure, it moves absolutely gorgeous. And again, you can adjust that tension as you wish down below. As we were talking about before, the buttons and switches are all toggles, and they feel just fun to play with. I can't tell you how many times I've sat here on meetings for work and just sat here and playing with all the buttons, switches, and dials. This is absolutely a fantastic configuration for just about any aircraft I can think of. Now, even to Microsoft Flight Simulator, you guys, I have been using this lately for about the past month, and it has been a wonderful dream. I have mapped so many different configurations to it. I can map just about all of my primary controls, such as lights, major radios, and, you know, alternator, battery, landing gear, things like that, parking brake. I have tried it all, and there is a button and a switch for just about anything you want. Moving it back to the front, let's move that. There we go. Again, you guys can see all of your different options here. We have a button here, an axis here, an axis here. It's actually more of a button. This isn't really an axis, but it's spring-loaded. So a momentary. You have your hat with push, joystick, push, and this, again, another axis. So you have just an unreal amount of mapping options, far superior to that of its competitors right now, in the regard to toggle switches and the layout. That's the other thing I really like about it is the layout. Everything is very, very easy to reach. It's very easy to manipulate, and just an overall dream. The only thing that I can really say, you guys, that's negative about it are the suction cups. I do not like the suction cups. I really hope they come up with a different way to mount that. Even rubber feet would be better than this, in my opinion. Maybe on the flight stick, use a heavier base with rubber feet, and I think that would work great. But that's the best complaint I can come up with. Everything else about setting it up and using it has been absolutely phenomenal. It's just a great piece of equipment. The sim app software that WinWing uses to control their software, you do have some mappings, some configurations like with the LEDs that you can manipulate. I'm not going to show that here because that's prudent to pretty much all their products. The software is very black and white. It's very easy to use. I've shown it before on my FCP Pro. Or FCP Pro, FCP for the Airbus aircraft that we have here as well. I've had multiple WinWing products now over the years. I had their combat and takeoff panels as well. Their original, the legacy ones. I haven't had their new ones, but the legacy ones I have, and I absolutely love them. They've held up very, very well. Their products are very solid. Everything in their construction feels good. It all just feels nice. There's no wiggle or play in any of the switches. Everything just feels like it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do without any kind of flaw. So anyways, guys, pros and cons as far as the pricing. Well, actually, let's get into the pros and cons. There's a couple there. All right, for the pros and cons of this unit, I really don't have many cons, guys. I think my only con to this truly as I've mentioned, the suction cups as the mounting option. Now, obviously, you can do screw mounting. You just pull those out and you have the screw holes available. But outside of that, that is the best I've got. Everything else about this unit for the last month that I've been using it, I absolutely love. It feels great. It moves great. It's very sleek looking. The design of it is absolutely perfect. Everything's easily reachable, especially in virtual reality. It's very easy to ascertain what it is you're going for. Right down to the different shapes of, for example, the flap switch versus the other toggle switches, having the wing fold switch in between it. Sorry, didn't mean to take the focus away. It's really, really well done, you guys. The software is as easy as can be to use. If you need to update the firmware or anything like that, it's a short, sweet option. The only thing that other con that I have is because its competitors such as VKB and Virpil have the cams and springs that are part of the unit. I would have liked to see that as a part of the unit for the flight stick. It would have been nice to be able to play around with different cams and springs, and I do think at the price point they should be included, but that's neither here nor there. That's just my recommendation to the developers. If they choose to follow that, great. If not, no worries. But that's really my only complaint. It's an absolute dream. The precision on it is fantastic. Whether we're talking about the throttle or the flight stick, the precision is dead on point. Doing things like flying in formation and air-to-air refueling with the flight stick, given that it is so smooth and so responsive, was just easy as can be. So as always, guys, I hope you found this video useful. Stay safe and healthy, folk. Links to this will be down in the description below, and I will see you in the next one.